Okay, got a fun one for you today. I want to talk about the weird effect that our kind of odd psychology around sex in the West affects us, and how it affects us in a lot of ways. And I actually wanted to focus on one particular way because you could come at this from a lot of angles, right? But the fact is, the U.S. was founded in large part by kind of a puritanical, a certain puritanical flavor of person. And sex was not something that was, it just wasn't natural, we'll say. It was controlled, it was regulated, there were taboos, there were massive taboos, right? And, I think growing up in America in the 80s and 90s, I got some of that. And it's only now in full-blown adulthood, theoretically, that I'm starting to look at it and be like, okay, what actually was the effect on my development from our kind of weird stance on sex and sexuality. And one thing that I've noticed, again, we could go to a lot of different places here, but one thing I've been thinking about lately is just from the physical movement side of things. Because we've gotten so weird about it that the movements associated with sexuality are kind of blocked off from us, and especially I think for men. So, just the specific thing I'm thinking of is how men are able to move their hips in to be able to do just a stereotypically sexy movement with your hips, to be able to roll and gyrate your hips, and thrust. Oh, heaven forbid. But to do those movements, I find them to be actually physically challenging in addition to psychologically challenging. I go to an ecstatic dance when I can. It happens once a week, but I miss some, but I go when I can. And it's a great laboratory for me to be able to kind of test how I'm able to let myself move, how freely I'm able to let myself move. And one of the ways that I will try that, or one of the ways I'll play with it, is okay, let's work on hip movement. If this is my pelvis, can I roll my hips? And can I angle my legs one way and then roll from there? Can I go into a deep squat and roll? And just play with it. And man, I feel there's so much restriction in those movements, and the movement is kind of jerky and uncoordinated. And I can just tell that the way in which my movement has been affected, it really compromised that ability. And this is not something that is universal. It's not something that every culture exhibits. And what I think of, what comes to my mind immediately if I think of, say, males that are open to being sexual, and they're not ashamed of it, I kind of think of Latin America, just because that's the one, I don't know, stereotype that I've been exposed to. It's if I see music videos from Latin America, I feel like I see men that are just more able to own their sexuality, and especially when it comes to their movement and the kind of the attitude that they have in the movement. I realize that don't think that music videos are the only ways that I'm making that conclusion. Obviously, music videos is that's a very specific kind of thing, but still, for myself and my own kind of experiments and explorations, it's something that I want for myself. You know, now that I'm more conscious about who I am and what I am and how I got here and where do I want to go and that kind of stuff. One of the things that I want back, or that I never had it, is that real confident ownership of my own sexuality, including being able to move like it. And I was thinking about how, you know, as I work on movements with my hips, I really notice that it feels amazing. Like, yeah, I can feel restrictions. You know, it's sort of like I'm always, you know, as I roll my hips, I'm always kind of at the edge of my range of motion, and I can feel the tightness in the joint and in the muscles around it and all that. But it actually feels really good to work that movement. And that's kind of the funny thing here, is that we're all, at least in this country, we're all dealing with the after effects of the fallout from this puritanical mindset that demonized pleasure. And not just sexual pleasure, just any pleasure seemed to be on the evil list. And even though, you know, I didn't grow up in some, you know, extreme religious sect or anything like that. In fact, I had a very free childhood. You still can't get away from the culture at large. It still has its impact. And so I still got the general American, you know, culture in me. And I'm only just now starting to go, oh my God, I have been unconsciously afraid of sexuality and of pleasure, and just being able to connect with that side of myself. But as I open up more and get a little curious, I'm like, hey, what's going on here? What could it be like? And where did my own personal development take me? What is this place? You know, stepping outside of this American Western bubble. That's at least how I think about it. So if you're interested in that, you know, ask yourself, yeah, can I move really freely? If you're in any sort of kind of public place, even a dance, like, can you actually move sexually? Think like a go-go dancer or something. Like, could you try it? I find it's hard. I can do it in private, you know, but it's hard. There's a strong psychological barrier there that to me says, oh yeah, I just grew up in a sexually repressed society, and it's kind of weird to come out of that. But the physical part of it, even, it's almost like the least interesting part of it, but even that is still interesting. I'm like, man, how many people's low back problems would go away if they could actually move their hips and practiced it, you know? Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, but thanks, and see you next time for random ramblings. All right, see ya.